Madame Zinab was the most famous hairdresser in a small community. Her salon was always full of apprentices, young girls who stayed for many years even though she gave them endless chores. People believed she was kind and helpful. Parents trusted her with their children. Girls came with hope in their hearts, dreaming of learning a skill and building a future. But everything changed the day Madame Zinab sent 3 of her apprentices to clean her house. The girls didn't plan to open her bedroom door. They didn't think anything strange was inside. They only wanted to finish their work and return to the salon. But when they gently pushed the door and stepped inside, their eyes landed on something they were never meant to see. From the outside, anyone would think Madame Zinab was a good teacher. You would believe she loved helping young girls. You would even swear she had a kind heart. But if you stepped into her real world, if you watched what happened before the first customer arrived, if you listened closely to the whispers and quiet cries of her apprentices, you would discover a very different truth. Every morning the apprentices arrived early. They came full of hope and ready to learn. They were excited to begin their journey in hairdressing. They wanted to touch combs, practice braiding, and learn new styles. But before they could even touch a comb, Madame Zinab would bring out chores. Endless chores. Clean the mirrors, she would say, even when they were already clean. Scrub the floor again, she would command, even when the tiles were shining. Wash my clothes, sweep the compound, go to the market, cook for my children, and clean my room upstairs. The girls ran up and down until their legs felt weak. Their hands became tired, their backs ached. Yet Madame Zinab acted as if they had done nothing at all. And any time they tried to learn, any time one of them picked up a comb or tried to touch a customer's hair, Madame Zinab shut her down immediately. "Drop that," she snapped. "You're not ready. You will spoil my customer's hair." Day after day this became their life. Little learning, too much work, too much shouting. Still the girls stayed. They believed one day things would change. They believed one day they would finally be allowed to learn. But one thing troubled Madame Zinab deeply. No matter how hard she tried to hide her apprentices, customers still noticed them. One customer would say, "This girl's hands are gentle. I like her touch." Another would smile and say, "Why don't you let this apprentice attend to me? She seems talented." To the customers, these were harmless words, just small compliments, but to Madame Zinab every single word felt like a threat. At first she pretended not to care. She smiled and thanked the customers. But inside her, something dark began to grow. She started watching the girls closely, not with pride, not with joy, but with fear. She counted how many times customers praised them. She noticed how customers looked at them. She saw how fast they learned whenever they touched even a small part of hair. And the more she noticed, the more afraid she became. What if they open their own salons one day? She thought. What if they take my customers? What if I become useless? Fear grew inside Madame Zinab like a shadow. Slowly, quietly, it covered her heart. And then, the day everything changed finally came. The day Mrs. Pamela called. The day everything changed was the day Mrs. Pamela called. Mrs. Pamela was a rich woman with power in the community. Many people respected her. When her phone call came in, Madame Zinab's heart jumped. Mrs. Pamela's voice sounded cheerful on the phone. "Madame Zinab," she said, "please send your apprentice, Kiamaka, for home service. She braided my friend's hair last week and we loved it." Zinab felt her stomach tighten at once. "I am available, Ma," she replied quickly. "I can come myself." But Mrs. Pamela answered gently, "No, madam. We really want Kiamaka. Her hands are neat and careful." Zinab's throat went dry. "I can handle it," she said again. "I am free today." But Mrs. Pamela's voice became firm. "Please send the girl. We prefer her." Those words, "we prefer her," cut deep into Madame Zinab's heart. She ended the call slowly. Then she turned and looked at Kiamaka. The girl was standing quietly, arranging hair tools, not knowing she had just become the center of a silent battle. From that moment, Zinab could not focus on anything. Her hands shook, her thoughts raced. Fear filled her mind like storm clouds. That night, she could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the words again and again. We prefer Kiamaka, we prefer Kiamaka. By morning, she was tired, weak, and restless. She knew she needed to talk to someone. She needed to release the fear boiling inside her heart. So she went to see her friend, her landlady. She didn't go there to look for anything strange. She only wanted comfort, she wanted simple advice. She wanted someone older to understand her fear. When she arrived, the landlady looked at her and said softly, "You look troubled." "I just need to talk," Zinab replied. They sat down together. Zinab explained everything. She talked about the apprentices becoming better. She talked about the customers praising them. She talked about her fear of losing her customers. She even admitted that the girls were learning too fast. The landlady listened quietly. She did not interrupt. When Zinab finished speaking, the woman folded her hands and said calmly, "Come back tomorrow morning." Zinab felt confused. "Why?" she asked. "What do you want to give me?" "Just come," the landlady replied. There was no explanation, no warning. Zinab left the house still worried, but a little relieved that she had spoken to someone. The next morning, she returned. The landlady was already waiting. On the table in front of her was a small tray covered with cloth. She motioned for Zinab to sit down. Slowly, she lifted the cloth. Under it was a small black clay pot. It looked old, dull, and strange. Faint marks were drawn around its body. Zinab's eyes widened. "What is this?" she asked. The landlady placed her hand gently on the pot and said quietly, "This will keep your apprentices tied to you." Zinab blinked in shock. "Tied to me?" "As long as their names touch this pot," the landlady explained, "they will never leave your salon unless you want them to. They will keep returning every day, even when they grow tired." Zinab's heart beat fast. This was not what she had come for. She had only wanted advice, but now something dangerous was being placed in her hands. The landlady continued, "Whenever a new apprentice joins, give her a form. Let her write her full name. When you get home, drop that paper inside this pot." Zinab stared at the pot in silence. Fear whispered one thing, power whispered another. After a long moment, she slowly reached out and touched the pot. It was cold. And in that quiet moment, Madame Zinab made a choice that would change everything. She took the pot home. From the day Madame Zinab brought the black pot into her house, everything began to change. At first, nothing looked different. The salon was still busy. The apprentices still arrived early. Customers still came in and out. But inside Zinab's heart, something had shifted. She no longer felt afraid. She no longer felt weak. She felt powerful. The very first chance she got to use the pot came 3 days later. A shy young girl named Lami arrived at the salon with her mother. The mother's eyes were full of hope. "Please help my daughter," the woman said. "She is hard working, and we want her to learn fast." Madame Zinab smiled calmly, but the smile did not reach her eyes. "Of course," she replied softly. Filled this form with her full name. The mother thanked her again and again. Lami thanked her too. By evening, Zinab had already dropped the girl's name inside the black pot. That night, she sat on her bed and stared at the pot for a long time. She did not feel guilty. She did not feel afraid. She did not ask questions. She only whispered, "Thank you." From that moment, her heart grew colder. The chores increased. The girls now cleaned the salon twice a day. They washed clothes in the morning and again at night. They cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Zinab's family. They ran errands without rest. Whenever any of them tried to practice, Zinab stopped them at once. "You call that parting?" she would shout. "You think customers will trust these careless hands? You're too slow, too weak, too distracted." Then she would send them back to scrub floors that were already clean. The apprentices began to complain to their parents, but every morning, something strange happened. No matter how tired they were, no matter how angry they felt, no matter how badly they wanted to quit, they still returned. They did not understand why. Madame Zinab understood, and she enjoyed it. She enjoyed the way they could not leave. She enjoyed the way they apologized even when she insulted them. She enjoyed the way they stayed trapped in hope. Weeks passed, months passed. Girls who planned to stay for 6 months found themselves still sweeping the same floor after 1 year. Girls who once dreamed of opening their own salons stopped talking about the future. Even the few who tried to quit always came back the next day as if something pulled them. And Madame Zinab grew bolder. One afternoon her landlady visited her at the salon. Zin AB welcomed her warmly. Too warmly. "Thank you again for what you gave me," Zinab whispered. "You didn't tell me it would work so well." The landlady smirked. "It always works," she said. "You will not lose any apprentice unless you want to." Zinab nodded slowly, her eyes shining. "Good," she whispered. "I like it this way." From that day on, she no longer feared her apprentices. Their future was now in her hands. Madame Zinab thought her power would last forever. She believed nothing could break the hold she had on her apprentices. But she was wrong. One quiet Tuesday morning, the salon was very busy. Customers filled the chairs, the dryers hummed softly. The apprentices moved like machines, working without rest. Among them were 3 girls who stood out without even trying. Their hands were faster. Their minds were sharper. Even with all the heavy work, they were still improving. Madame Zinab noticed, and she did not like it. With a cold face, she pointed at the 3 of them. You, and you," she said sharply. "Go to my house now. Cook lunch. Clean everywhere. Do not come back until the whole place is shining." The girls bowed their heads and left at once. When they reached her house, her teenage son opened the door. "Mommy says we should cook and clean," one girl said. He shrugged. "She didn't tell me, but come in." They tied wrappers around their waists and began working. After cooking, they started cleaning the living room, shelves, and furniture. As they were about to finish, the boy passed by and said, "Don't forget to clean Mommy's room. She likes it neat." They hesitated, but they obeyed. Inside the bedroom, everything looked neat, but beside the bed, half hidden under a wrapper, one of the girls saw something strange. "What is this?" she whispered. It was the black clay pot. They called Zinab's son. He looked at it and frowned. "My mom does not use things like this," he said. "Throw it away. It looks useless." The girls did not argue. They wrapped the pot in nylon and threw it into the dustbin outside. And just like that, Zinab's power was broken. That same evening, something strange began to happen. One apprentice sat alone and suddenly remembered the dreams she once had. Another walked home thinking, "How long have I been here?" Another stared at her hands and asked herself, "Why am I not learning anything?" By the next morning, their minds were clear. They walked into the salon with new eyes. They saw the truth. They whispered to one another, "I've been here for almost 3 years. I thought it was only 6 months. I don't even know how I stayed this long." Madame Zinab felt it immediately. Her voice no longer scared them. Her shouting no longer controlled them. Her power was gone. By afternoon, 3 girls packed their bags and walked out quietly. The next day, more followed. Within 1 week, the salon was almost empty. Customers noticed. Parents began to talk. Fear spread through the community. Soon, customers stopped coming. Some crossed to the other side of the road. Some whispered, "That place is not normal." Madame Zinab ran to her landlady for help. "They are leaving me," she cried. "My customers are gone. Please help me." But the landlady shook her head. "There's nothing I can do," she said. "The pot cannot be given to the same person twice." That night, Madame Zinab cried alone in her room. Within 1 month, her salon was silent. No customers. No apprentices. No power. And in the end, Madame Zinab was left alone with her choices. Thank you for watching, besties. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. To all my returning subscribers, thank you for always supporting this channel. And to my new viewers, I truly appreciate every one of you. See you in the next story. Stay blessed.